Just cut the blocks. Hi folks, welcome back to our timber framing series. We are on day 6, I think, 6 and 7 this video. I'm going to be showing you how I got to this point. I'm on post 10, still ploughing through them, getting all the tenons cut so we can look at raising the frame next week. Plus later in the video, there's a new tool to share, so stick around for the big reveal. So it's absolutely filthy weather out there. It's storm, what's his name? Callum? No, I don't know. Anyway, it's howling, it's raining, it's just horrible. Nothing much more I can do, is there, apart from go out and get another post. Things are getting heavier as the week goes on. Don't fly off roofing sheets, please. Oh, it's nice to be fussy. Just to chat him. Can you just open the door for me? Thanks. Didn't think this through, did I? Let's get stuck back into this one. So first up, I'm trying to find out what side I want where. Apparently it's a delivery, but I'm not sure I've done enough to deserve a new tool yet. But we could justify it to ourselves by saying it's going to speed up our work, right? Oh dear, access is not good. Right, we've jumped forwards. As you can see, I am on post 9 now, so only 2 or 3 to go. We've finally kind of got into a swing of things, and I thought I'd give you an overview of how I'm doing each post, because it's pretty much the same layout, although some of the tenons are different sizes. So this is a standard post. It's going down one of the sides, and what I want to do before I do anything is work out what side we want visible, what side we don't. And I mentioned this in the last video, I think, but these are all very straight and square. So it's more about appearance, and this is just a boxed heart, so it's pretty much the center. But on the back side here, if I rotate it round, it's a bit lighter in color. So it's just a little bit of this, more of the sap wood, I guess. So we'll face that towards the outside, so we've got an even warmer color on the 3 faces we'll see inside the building. Now this end, conveniently, is very square. So that will become the end of our tenon, and we're going to make this the top of our post. So I'll mark that that's our face. If we rotate it round, this is where we're always going to work from. All of our measurements we've taken from that face. And the reason for that is because these aren't necessarily going to be identical to the beams and the plates, and those mortises are cut. We measured in the case of this, where this is going, we've measured in exactly 2.5 inches from the outside of that mortise timber. So if we do exactly the same on this tenon, the outside face is going to be completely flush with whatever timber it's slotting into. So instead of just measuring down and up and making sure we've got a central tenon, we're not too concerned about that. We're more concerned about its position from this edge, or everything's positioned from this edge. So we know that we want it 2.5 inches, and then we know that our tenon is going to be 2 inches. So I'm going to change combination square to 4.5 to account for this plus our final tenon. So we now know that this tenon will be set in exactly the same amount as our mortise is on the beam outside. So just to show you what I'm on about, you can see that it's about, what is that in inches? I feel a bit naughty using inches, but we're going old school. 1/8 of an inch, 3 millimeters. So if I had just put a central tenon, the whole timber would have shifted and it wouldn't line up on the outside. So what I'm trying to do is get these cuts near enough where I want them, and then there's minimal tidy up to do. And it's working pretty well, and it's much quicker than the chop, 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 chip, chip, chip. So I've got that clean cut all the way around, pretty much to the right depth. So now we need to cut down these cheeks. I'm still leaving a little bit of chisel work, but not too much. This is pretty much all of our cuts made. So like I said, we'll finish off with this handsaw just to get the full depth where the track saw couldn't quite reach. Now, like with nearly everything in my life, I tend to come up with my own version of techniques, so an order of doing things. So this is just what seems best for me. What I want to do now, this is our face, remember. I want to make sure, although we've got a line here, just going to double check it. I want to always make sure that this is my priority, make sure that that is exactly 2.5 inches. And the better we're getting at that. Drop cut, there's a little bit to shave off, so let's do that first. That's good all the way across. Happy with that. So we know that we don't really need to touch any of that again. And I can see here we're about 2 or 3 mil off our line. Back here it doesn't look too bad. Then we can just check with our cheeky checker. Almost there. So what I'm finding on my slick versus plain journey, knots, there's so much more weight and momentum behind this slick that it clears them out much better. And most of the time I'm using this now. I think that knot comes down, so I'm going to cut that one instead. Right, and that should get rid of a bit of the risk. Yeah, that knot and that knot were the same one, so we should now just be able to come down to our line. We're pretty good up this end. Oh, of course you're going to tear out on me. They never tear out when the camera's not watching. I can see 22 minutes on the clock there, which is pretty slow going, but we now know that providing our mortise is the size we want it to be and that we've cut that correct, this should, cross fingers, go in okay. One last thing I'm going to do, just knock off these corners, even though our mortise is square on the corners, and then also take off the end, because the chain mortar leaves a little bit of a curve on the corners, and although we've gone a little bit deeper than the depth of the tenon, it's just one less thing to snag. Right, and that, folks, is another tenon done. So what are we, 9, 20, 38, we're on 38 tenons so far. That's all right, 39. So one more on this one, and I might leave the other post till tomorrow. Right, before we leave it there for today, hopefully in the footage it's going to be apparent that the joinery is a bit better now because the tools are being sharper. it's more effortless, the finish is better. So let me give you a quick, very, very quick 1 minute overview of what arrived yesterday, the new sharpening tool. The most simple and quite effective way of sharpening tools is just simply using sandpapers, wet and dries, different grits, and putting them on a sheet of glass, or in my case, a piece of granite, which happens to be the kitchen countertop. Now that doesn't really go down that well, and on a long-term basis, if you're just touching up tools, you don't really want to be wielding sharp things in the family kitchen. So I filmed a whole little bit yesterday on unboxing this, setting it up, using it, and then I thought, well, why am I making this video? I haven't even familiarized myself with the tool yet. So I'm going to come back to that. We'll revisit the whole thing in a few weeks. So very quickly, this sharpener, instead of working on the principle of a wheel, whether that's a wet wheel or a dry wheel or whatever, this is a belt version. So rather than the Tormek style sharpeners that I know a lot of people use, this one is perhaps a little bit simpler in my head at least. It's got one table here, which you can set to predefined points using a pin at the back. So you basically, once you've set your angle, you've done your main bevel, which mine were already set to. All of these are set and ground for hardwood still, even though this is softwood. So it's a 30-degree honing bevel, micro bevel on it. So all I've done is set that to 30, worked up to the grits, and then this one, which is 600 I think, is the one I've left on there, just touching it up as I go. That's it. Just super simple. On there, touch it, few seconds, and it's just, why didn't I do it years ago? It costs 300 quid, which is an awful lot of money considering this has got me through the last 5 years, but perhaps it hasn't done very well. Partly because there's more user error involved there, but also it's a bit more limiting. I can't get some of the bigger planes on there. The slick wouldn't fit on there, so that's why I've gone this route. Plus, also, my big aim for this new workshop is to get into some turning, and this allows for a lot of those tools to be sharpened. And the only thing I'm using this for, although I did sharpen a gouge last night, that's what this V groove for. This block here actually will give me my right angle. They do a proper right angle bit attachment for chisels, but this, from all accounts, you can check out Wonky Workshop, Dan from Yandles. He suggested just using this, and then you don't need to buy anything more. But anyway, that is it. That is the new purchase and the only tool I have purchased for this whole project. So I don't feel too bad about it. Plus, sharp tools are safer tools. You know, you're not putting your whole body weight behind a blunt tool and then it goes through your thumb. Likewise with chef knives and stuff, you can sharpen all sorts on here. And the way I justified it to Jo was to say that I could sharpen her fabric scissors, but I probably have to buy a 50 quid jig for that. I haven't even looked into it. Anyway, one less thing to worry about. Sharp tools, upkeeping them, touching them up every few tenons, and it's all good. It is hard to compare if you've never had sharp tools, and I thought I had. You know, even when they come factory sharp, you think, oh, this is good, but actually I've never, all my attempts at using blocks or bits of wet and dry on granite, and I've never ever managed to get a blade sharp enough to take hairs off your arm like you see all the macho axe guys do, and I just couldn't do it. That, I don't know, maybe 4 minutes, and it takes about 30 seconds to change a belt, and every time it's just like bam, ready to go, and it's just night and day the difference. So I'm chuffed. Anyway, far too much chat as always. I'm going to get on, I reckon, just get these last 2 posts done. I have now decided on the blocks. The blocks arrived yesterday, as you saw, and I've worked out a way that I don't have to cut them. Everyone was like, just cut the blocks. 50 blocks, even with the petrol saw with the water and stuff, is still like just droning for 2 hours, and I just not feeling it. So I've worked out I can actually use it to my advantage and have the overhang on the outside, but all that will become clear. It's going to work really, really well, and make even more of a showcase of our timber frame. But that's it. Any comments on this video, stick them down below. Next video on the channel will be a roofing video. Hope everyone has a good weekend. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself, and we'll see you next week.